Kern and Hammerstein's next play, The New Moon, was a retreat to the traditional operetta form, but that was really by accident. It had actually been written before Showboat and then shelved due to Ziegfeld's demanding production schedule on Showboat. The magic of The New Moon is not in its plot, but in its combination of jazz musical forms with traditional operetta sounds. It included a foxtrot and a tango, both of which are now jazz standards. Again, the massive success back-to-back of both Showboat and The New Moon seemed ready to usher in a new age of American operetta. But yet again, something got in the way. This time, it was the economy. Operetta spectaculars were expensive to stage, and the stock market crash of 1929 left Broadway producers scrambling to finance their shows. Florence Ziegfeld's Broadway production in 1929 of Noel Coward's achingly beautiful English operetta, Bittersweet, closed after only a few months. And that's maybe not as tragic as it sounds, because that convinced Noel Coward to then focus on writing comedies instead, and we're all much better for them. There were a few attempts to shift the form of operetta into smaller, more intimate works, but by and large, Broadway was dominated by plays without music, musical comedies, and revues for the next decade. However, in the middle of this crisis came an opportunity. Hollywood had learned how to sing, and it needed material. Hollywood has always borrowed from the theater, and operetta was no exception. Now, we've already discussed and seen a few film adaptations, but Hollywood's love affair with operetta actually predated the sound era. It seems counterintuitive, I know, but there were several silent films based on operettas. Many of them were made by MGM. Even back then, Hollywood traded on what the kids in the marketing department now call brand recognition and built-in audiences. These silent operettas included Erich von Stroheim's adaptation of Franz Lehar's The Merry Widow, starring the oh-so-yummy John Gilbert, and an adaptation of Victor Herbert's The Red Mill, starring the oh-so-charming Marion Davies. MGM also jumped at the chance to turn Rosemarie and The Student Prince into silent films, with its top stars Joan Crawford, Ramon Navarro, and Norma Shearer. The silent film of The Student Prince was directed by the German émigré director Ernst Lubitsch. When the sound era arrived, the Lubitsch touch proved to be a perfect match for the frothy world of operetta. He directed 4 early sound films that were either operettas or operetta-adjacent musical comedies. I don't really have a better term than operetta-adjacent. These early sound films really blurred the lines between operetta and musical comedy. 3 of Lubitsch's operetta-ish musicals starred the unconventional on-screen couple Jeanette Mcdonald and Maurice Chevalier. Mcdonald was a classical soprano who was at home in operetta. Chevalier was a French music hall star who made everything sound naughty. The juxtaposition was romantic comedy gold. Lubitsch's first 2 films with Mcdonald and Chevalier were new musicals, written in a slightly risque but sophisticated Viennese operetta style, The Love Parade and 1 Hour with You. In between, he directed Chevalier in a film in which he shared the screen not with Jeanette Mcdonald, but with Claudette Colbert and Miriam Hopkins instead, both of whom were fabulous actresses, but not the best singers. The film was The Smiling Lieutenant, which was nominated for a Best Picture Oscar in 1931. Musically, it's not an operetta, most definitely not, but it featured many of the plot elements of operetta. In 1934, after moving to MGM, Lubitsch then turned his attention to something that was operetta, a new screen adaptation of Franz Lehar's turn-of-the-century mega hit, The Merry Widow. See, I told you it was going to come up again and again. The film reunited Chevalier with Mcdonald on screen for a third time. The adaptation played fast and loose with the source material. Very fast and loose. But it kept the overall premise and the hit songs of Lehar's original score. Although Jeanette Mcdonald and Maurice Chevalier were wonderful in these films, in my opinion, the real star was Ernst Lubitsch's innovative directing, as we'll see from this brief clip of the famous Merry Widow waltz scene.